Well, hello, YTPC. It is Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. This is Dave coming to you from Southern Maryland. It's about 40 degrees, almost dead calm out here, coming to you from the front porch. The late day sun is right in my face, but it's actually not too bad. It's kind of broken up by the front row, the front forest, the trees. I literally just thought I'd come on and say hello, keep my streak going. Been a nice, a little bit more quiet day today. Let's see, we'll do the housekeeping first. There's the Meerschaum. As always, pretty much my only pipe in Maryland. And I'm smoking in it. Today I got McLaren, McBaron. There's a car guy for you, huh? A McBaron Balkan blend. I don't pull the Balkan blend too often. It's not one of my favorites. Tastes all right. It's just not one of my favorites. So let's see. Like I showed you my car warehouse. That's a 3-bay warehouse. I actually have 5 bays, but I'm letting 2 of them go as of December 1st. So one's already done. I've cleaned it out and turned it back. And the other one's getting cleaned out now. But this morning I had one of my lift guys come. I sold one of my big lifts. And the guy who bought it was coming to pick it up today. So that takes several hours to take apart and remove. And that's done now. My son said he wanted to go to lunch, just 2 of us. So we went and got a little sushi together. That was nice. My daughter called. My daughter picked up a telephone and called my telephone. There's a better chance of a snow leopard walking through my front lawn than my daughter calling me on the telephone. She was just lonely and wanted to talk. I'm telling you, that may have happened once or twice in my almost 21 years with her. And she wanted to chat, talk to her like a half an hour. What's the line from Christmas Vacation? I wouldn't have been more surprised if I woke up with my head sewn to the carpet. Anyway, we had a great talk. She was just feeling lonely and missing home. She flies home for a month in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today. And I think she just wanted to touch home a little bit. We were setting up the tree without her this year. Yeah, she wasn't home for Thanksgiving dinner. It was just a great time. So how about that? Lunch one-on-one with my son, and then a couple hours later, a half-hour phone call with my daughter. That's a good afternoon right there. I should quit and go to bed probably and call it a day. But we have dinner scheduled tonight. We're going out to one of my favorite places. It's an Irish pub. Be Marylanders, Killarney House on Central Avenue in just south of Annapolis. They actually serve real Guinness on tap, so it's going to be a good dinner. One thing that made me laugh is how many of us in the pipe community have a dog involved. Maybe not only just in our lives, but we actually have them in our videos. I know Bean 316 had his dog in the video today. Smarty Bob regularly has his. Dave over there at Central Cal Piper, usually you don't see her, but you hear her. In fact, he and I were joking the other day because my dog, if any of my dogs, particularly Ranger, if Ranger's sitting near me while I'm watching Dave's videos and his dog goes off in the back or starts the whining that she likes to do, he gets all worried and starts barking at the video. So in a section of my videos that we probably should call it Mr. Helpful Corner or some silly thing like that, I think the one thing I'll suggest today is do you read? I'll just ask you the question, do you read? Now, I'm not doing a GAW challenge or anything like that. I'm just asking the question, do you read? And I don't really mean, do you read, I don't really mean do you read online. I mean, I don't mean do you read like the news online? Do you get your phone and read Barron's or Wall Street Journal? That's not what I mean. I'm not judging if that's what you do. I'm just saying that's not what I mean. What I mean for me is, anyways, do you get out a book? And I guess you could do a Kindle. I read a book. I mean, an actual physical paper book sitting on my desk while I read. But if you do a Kindle, that's cool. But do you read? And if you do, what do you read? I'm not a big fan of fiction. I've tried a bunch of times, even in the last year or two, and I just can't get traction to it. I like to read things that are real or that teach me something. Yeah, I'm sure you could say the classics will teach me something, and I need to get back into trying those again. But currently, that's not what I'm reading. So I'm currently reading the Bible every day. This is currently my second year doing it. I read it all last year and all this year. Last year I read the King James Version. There's a annual plan, so if you read it daily, in 1 year you read the whole Bible. In 2022, I did that plan for reading the King James Bible. Everybody hates that thing because it reads like theist and thouist and mostest and whatevereth. But I thought I'd power my way through it, and I did it. And then this year I've been reading the New American Standard Bible, the NASB. And then next year I will read what's called the Scriptures, which is yet another version of the Bible. We'll get into why I'm doing that maybe in a few minutes. But I want to tell you 3 books that changed my life. One of them is a pair, but the book Good to Great, and then the follow-up to that is Great by Choice. Those 2 books changed how I thought about moving forward in life. I read them years and years ago, but I read them with intent, and I read them truly with the purpose of learning how to do things differently. And that set really changed how I thought of things, and still does to this day. I mentioned the flywheel the other day. Bullets before cannonballs was another concept. And then the 5-mile march. Those concepts are actually pretty damn good, and I try to employ them throughout my life. I haven't employed them on how to keep a pipe lit yet. 2 books that I continue to read almost every day. Is The Daily Reader for the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The book itself is amazing. I've read it 10 times. I've studied it. I've underlined it. I've dog-eared it. I mean, I beat the crap out of that book. It changed my life completely. If you tell me you read it in high school or during a college assignment, I'm telling you, I haven't read it. If you haven't read it as an adult struggling to make improvements in their life, you probably haven't read it. It truly is an amazing book if you open your mind and let it in. There's a daily reader for that as well. It's 365. It walks you through the entire book over 365 days. That daily reader is something that sits on my desk to this day. There's that classic from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. There's a lot more than just growing rich in that book. And they have like positive affirmations, daily positive affirmations. It's a daily reader as well. So the book changed my life and the daily reader continues to enforce it in my life. So those are really the three that I read: the Bible, the 7 Habits, and the Think and Grow Rich daily readers. So maybe in the comments, you can tell me what you're reading, or if you read, and then maybe even do a video if you care to, on what books changed your life. Maybe we can share it, tell each other what were the things that changed your life. What were the books that gave you inflection points in your life and changed the direction or the acceleration rate or the improvement rate in your life. So let's talk a little bit about why I chose to start reading the Bible 2 years ago. One of the biggest reasons is, I was 57. I think I was embarrassed that at 57 I'd never sat down and read the Bible. I'd done Bible schools and church schools and gone to church. I was raised in the church. I don't think I've gone to church in 22 years now, but I grew up in the church. And every week we had Bible study, and every week they read to you from the Bible, the Old Testament, New Testament, gospel reading scenario most churches go through. But I had never sat and read what the Bible actually says. Now, there's some controversy over the Bible itself being manipulated, but let's set that aside for this conversation anyway. But as I started reading it, I began to realize that everything had been spun for me. Generally your church will spin the Bible. Even Bible reading services will put their own interpretations on it. And you can you can buy the Concordias and things come with it if you like it to be interpreted as you read it. But just to read the raw book, the raw words, without the pastor interpreting it or the priest telling you why it's important or telling you what's important. And what I found out is I think most churches leave out a lot of the Bible. It's a pretty harsh book. The first 5 books of the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, are the Torah for the Jewish folks, and form was known as the Law of Moses. I never read it. I didn't know what that meant. I studied it twice. It's very specific about how we're supposed to act ourselves towards God and ourselves towards each other, and how our justice system is supposed to work. I just thought I did not know how specific the Bible was in all of those things. It's very specific on how we're supposed to eat and why. It's very specific on what holidays we're supposed to follow and why. The direction given to Joshua as he expanded from the promised land into the 16 or 17 other countries, very specific and very brutal. The lineage from Adam to Noah to Abraham to the 12 tribes to David and Solomon and eventually to Jesus, very specific. And it takes a lot of time in drawing that legacy and lineage out. What Christ's teaching actually was, his actual words, if they got that right. They got 4 shots in the Gospels to tell you what he says, and they slightly differ, but they read as if somebody was standing there. But what do I know? And the events that led up to his conviction and crucifixion, kind of brutal. And how authority said twice at least that, hey, I don't see anything that this guy did that deserves death. Why are you asking him to be crucified? It's pretty clear in the Bible. I just found all that interesting, intellectually interesting, historically interesting. It doesn't have to change how you think or your life, but I thought it's a pretty foundational document to the documents that created this country and under the philosophy that we generally live under. And I thought it was interesting to read it and go right to the source, as I say, and get rid of all the spinning and all the this is why it's important or this is what's important. And I mean, there's probably, I bet you half the Bible may not be read in church. I didn't know any of that until I read it. And I've studied it twice, and I'll study it again next year. And I really admire the people who can do the cross book references, oh, well, Malachi said this, but Jeremiah said it this way, and Daniel said it this way, and Daniel actually, chapter 13 is a predecessor to Revelation chapter 14, stuff like that. I mean, I find that kind of impressive, and I'm nowhere near that kind of a scholar yet, but I kind of want to be. I'd like to be able to recall how different parts of the Bible fit together. Not meant to be a religious speech, not really even not much of an organized religion guy or a church guy in any way. In fact, I believe church is a lot of what's wrong with the world today. But I don't think that keeps us from being spiritual or believing in a God. Whatever you call him, I don't particularly care. If you don't believe in a God of any kind, it's certainly up to you. I struggle with that concept that this is all random, but certainly don't need me to bitch at you about that. Anyway, I've just come to believe you can be spiritual, be thoughtful, and learn about these things and not really be religious. So I think we'll end this version of Pipes and Pontification. Let's say good Saturday afternoon to you. Hope you had a great Saturday. Hope you have a good Sunday. Kind of rounding out a 5-day weekend for a lot of folks these next 2 days, and then kind of back at it for a few weeks. I know when I was going downtown every day, this time of year was better. Even if I had to go to work, it was still a little bit lighter, a little bit kinder, maybe not traffic wise. Maybe traffic was easier. It wasn't kinder, but I found the world can be a little bit softer these next 4 weeks. So I hope you find that true. And I will talk to you tomorrow, I hope.